Okay, so here goes another anonymous story time. It was New Year's Eve 2013, and I stayed home because I didn't like how my outfit looked. My mom, my sister, and my brother went to parties, so I was home alone with my 10-year-old cousin. I double-checked that the front door was locked because why not? I was upstairs in my room when I sensed someone else was in the house. I listened, and sure enough, I heard someone downstairs. I ran to the landing and I looked down where I saw a guy calmly walking around our house. After a few seconds, I realized it was my sister's friend who was madly in love with her, so I said, "Hey, Benny." He jumped and turned around, startled. I asked him what was up, and he finally said he was walking in the neighborhood watching fireworks and noticed that our front door was open. He said he came to check on the house, that no one had broken in and nothing was stolen. I acted like I believed him because I really didn't know what his goal was. He tried to show me how the door was ajar, so I went along with it, and the moment he stepped outside, I locked up after him. When my mom and sister came back, I told them how Benny had a key to the house, and they thought I was fucking crazy. Turns out, my sister dropped her spare key in his car, and instead of returning it, he kept it and made a copy. This guy actually bought a house one street over just so he could be near my sister. At first, he denied having the key, but when we threatened to call the cops, he finally admitted it. We moved to a keyless lock since then and installed cameras all around the house.
One of the most insane serial killers I have ever learned about, I still to this day believe didn't work alone. So you guys know Jack the Ripper, right? Well, this guy not only outlasted and outdid him, but he put New York in one of the biggest states of fear and taunted investigators for years. Before we get into who he is and why I don't think he acted alone, let's talk about what he did. The first kill he ever made was stabbing 2 young girls on Christmas Eve of 1975. At this time, New York was in absolute shambles. People were being killed and assaulted all the time. Robberies were happening, bodies were being found, and the police really couldn't keep up with everything, so whenever this happened, it wasn't like a big news headliner. Well, a few months later, 2 girls were shot sitting in their car. Both of them ended up surviving, but it happened so fast that they didn't have any information on the suspect. Just some .44 caliber bullets left on scene. Well, the next attack occurred whenever this couple was sitting in a car. They reported that the whole car felt like it exploded, and the girl looked over and saw a bullet wound in the guy's head. Because of the bullets used, the police were able to make the connections. Part 2 to why I don't think the son of Sam worked alone. Well, it was rumored that there was a cult working in New York City that was an offshoot of the Process Church of the Final Judgment. They referred to themselves as the Children and ended up in Yonkers. Well, when Maury was doing his investigating, he was let know by several people that their rituals were done in Untermeyer Park, an estate that used to be absolutely beautiful. But as you can see from the pictures, there's now an abandoned pump house. And when investigating this, trigger warning, they found blood on the walls and blood on the ceiling, in symbolic writing. Not only this, but dead animals were everywhere, including specifically dogs. So then it was time to look back at David's letters, in which he made cultural references to Beelzebub, which is the demon known as Lord of the Flies, and Brat, which is a small devil. He also ended his letter as From the Gutters, which was quite literally the nickname for the abandoned pump house. And when holding how he signed his name at the end of the letters to the mirror, you can find the words Sam and Carr and Burke in it. So where were the actual sons of Sam, and why hadn't they been questioned? Part 3 to why I don't think the son of Sam worked alone. Well, after Maury had taken an investigation into his own hand and was seeing all these connections, he went to the police with it. And he was essentially just told to shut it down. That they had their man behind bars, there's no way other people worked with him, even though there was clear indications that he was working with a cult, and none of the eyewitness sketches even looked like him. So the last thing to do would be able to tie the sons of Sam to the actual case. So John, Michael, and Wheat Carr were all the kids of Sam, Michael and John specifically being the sons. After talking to neighbors, there were several stories about Sam beating them. Their father Sam struggled with alcoholism, and this was all included in the letter that David wrote. So Maury's like, okay, let's go do investigating in the place that they were from, Minot, North Dakota. And when they got to their hometown, they were told by everyone that they were legitimately cult leaders. There was accounts of them sacrificing dogs, drinking blood, all of the work. So Maury was like, okay, we need to actually get a hold of these guys. Maybe they'll be open to talking about it. But soon after that, it was reported that they both mysteriously died.
I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant with twin girls. My sister is 28 and has had 14 miscarriages. She's only had one successful pregnancy, which resulted in my 4-year-old niece. I'm not against having kids, but I definitely wanted to wait until I graduated with my degree and I was married to my significant other. From the start, my mom has been saying I should give my babies to my sister since she deserves them more than I do. And my sister completely agrees. I told them hell no, and my mom calls me a selfish bitch. Throughout my pregnancy, my sister has been begging me to give her at least one baby since I'm having 2. The last time I saw her, we were having lunch and she started babbling about keeping one of my babies, so I paid for my meal and left and haven't seen any of them since then. After I have my girls, I log on to Facebook to hundreds of threatening messages from my family and friends about how I stole my sister's babies and ruined her life. She posted a picture of her nursery that she had for my babies. There's so many posts about how generous I am for going through the pregnancy and giving my sister the babies. She told everyone I was giving her my babies, and she has my pictures of them in the NICU saying how she can't wait to bring them home.
My fiance is so horrible to me. He checked my credit card statement and realized I was spending too much money, so he took my card away. Thankfully, he still left my debit card, but he's only giving me $10,000 a week. On top of all that, he said I'm no longer allowed to order food out anymore. So now I only get $10,000 to spend at Target, and I have to cook every meal. I really wish I could just leave him, but we do have a kid together, so it's not that simple. I really don't know how he expects me to live like this, but it's brutal.
Okay, so here goes another anonymous story time. This story is about how my friend got my mom pregnant. So me and this guy, we've always been friends. Well, more like friends with benefits, because we messed around all the time, but we never had feelings for each other. Well, one day after we finished, he told me he had this girl that he really liked and we had to stop messing around. I said, okay, sure, I don't care. I never had romantic feelings towards him, mainly because he was my best friend and we were just hooking up. But yeah, I didn't sleep with him for like a couple months until he shows up at my house one day all over me. And I'm like, okay, this girl must have broke your heart. So we mess around for a little bit, and after a few weeks, things go back to normal and he's back to messing with me and whoever else. I never figure out who the girl was, but one night while we were laying down talking in bed, he tells me that the girl is pregnant. And I was like, damn, that's tough, but what's that got to do with me? He asked me if I could go with him to see the girl and shit, because I guess he was scared. So I drove him there and sat in the car, but I kind of recognized the drive but was unsure. He knocks on the door and my mother fucking comes out in tears. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I sat there and I laughed to myself, thinking I maybe smoked some crack or something, because I'm definitely hallucinating. But anyways, my friend goes into my mom's house and they're in there for a little bit. I still haven't fully processed that he's with my mom, so I'm waiting outside like a fucking idiot. He comes out after 40 minutes saying that everything's all good and that she's getting an abortion. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? That's my mom. And he insisted that it wasn't. So here goes part 2 to the anonymous story time. My friend got my mom pregnant. We left, and then a few weeks later, my mom tells me that she's pregnant. And I'm like, you're a grown-ass woman on the verge of menopause. You have no business giving birth to a child. But my dad was supportive because he wanted a boy. I didn't know at the time that it was my friend's baby, and obviously my dad didn't either. But anyways, she gives birth to this baby and he's mixed race. My dad is whiter than a sheet of paper and I'm also white and so is my mom. I'm not sure why the fuck she thought she would get away with this, but it was when the baby was born that I realized it was my friend's baby. I confronted him about it and he broke down crying saying he didn't want me to find out about it. And I was like, dude, you knocked up my mom. I'm gonna find out about it. He wouldn't stop crying and I was so confused. He then goes on to tell me that he's in love with my mom and that they're leaving together. I was flabbergasted. Apparently, my mom had told my dad that she was leaving him and he was so heartbroken. So when I went to talk to my mom the day before they were meant to leave, saying that you're a grown-ass woman, get your shit together, she started crying like she didn't just fuck a 21-year-old. Anyways, I stopped speaking to my friend and my mom for like 5 years. I have a boyfriend and my dad's kind of moved on. I got an invitation to my mom and my friend's wedding and I laughed out loud.
Am I wrong for forcing my daughter to go to a party? I, 44 female, have 3 girls who I'll call May 21, Jessica 19, and Diana 16. Of course I'm biased, but all 3 of them are genuinely beautiful and charming. However, Diana isn't as social as her 2 big sisters. It's the classical teenage sitcom differences. Oh god, this is going south already. May and Jessica were social butterflies in high school. They had lots of friends and were very well known. Diana, on the other hand, has had the same 5-person group of friends since middle school and spends most of their time playing video games, particularly League of Legends and Smash Bros. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say something's wrong with people who play League of Legends? In general, they are more on the geek side. Like I said, a very cliche difference. Diana has had bad luck, and thanks to lockdown, she hasn't had the full high school experience her sisters had. But she doesn't seem as affected as one would think. On one hand, it makes sense. Despite the worst part of the lockdown last year, she pretty much played with her friends online quite often, so I'm guessing she didn't feel as isolated as her sisters during this time, but still, it concerns me a little. Teenage years are a lot about being social and adventurous, and even without this global situation, she chooses to stay indoors. Anyway, the problem is that Diana's high school is planning a Halloween dance this month since last year it was cancelled. I imagine she'd be excited for her first dance, but she just isn't, and yesterday she told us that the day of the dance, Friday the 29th, she and her friends plan to participate in a local League of Legends tournament. This made me angry. She literally has all the time in the world for video games, but a limited amount of high school events, and she's just ditching them for irrelevant video game tournaments. I usually try to be supportive of her hobbies, but this crossed the line, and I told her she couldn't go to the tournament, and if she didn't go to the dance, then she won't go out that day nor play video games for the weekend. Like I said, my girl is as beautiful as her sisters, and I'm sure she wouldn't have a difficult time making friends. She doesn't have anything to be insecure about. When May and Jessica had this dance, they start prepping in September, trying new styles, finding the best costumes, all of that. I would drive them around to help them in any way possible to prepare. I wouldn't call it a tradition, but it's a moment that's also important for me. Oh, I see why you all butthurt about this. Oh, I see why you all butthurt about this. After the argument, my husband told me I was being an a-hole, and if she didn't want to go, that was on her. But what if she regrets not going when she's older? She can always play video games, but time won't stop, and she won't be in high school much longer. Still, my husband is rarely this upfront, so I wanted to know, am I wrong here? You guys in the comments, attack! This woman deserves to be attacked. I am promoting bullying in this section. Actually, no, TikTok, no, I'm not promoting bullying, because in this video we'll get, taken down. But attack this lady. What?
No, when I was a teenager, I actually used to set myself up like I didn't have a strict Ghanaian father. This one time, my guy best friend at the time was having like family issues, so he came to my house at like 2 a.m. and he begged me if he could like stay over because he didn't want to go home. And I felt so bad, so me like a dummy, I said yes. I don't even know what I was on at the time because I'd even ball up back then, but anyways. I snuck him into my basement, set up a little place for him, and right when I was about to go back to my room to pretend to sleep, my dad got up to get ready for work. The man went to go check my room, and obviously I wasn't there, so he started searching the entire house. I tried to come up and act like I was just getting water, but he just did not believe me. It's like he could feel it in his chest that I was just up to something, you know? Like, it wasn't making no sense to him as to why I was awake. Bro, he gets to the basement, and at this point, like, I was worried, I was shook, my heart was beating, I was sweating, just all of the above. Searches the entire place, and of course, with my luck, he freaking found part 2. So obviously my dad definitely found him, and right when the man seen him, he just went into full-on attack mode. Like, he didn't even ask no questions. Who is this? What is he? No, like, he just started fighting the man. My friend, obviously being very respectful, did not fight back. He was just really trying to run. No, I need you guys to actually picture this. My friend's literally trying to run, and behind him is my dad trying to catch him and just beat his ass, like, literally. He literally runs all the way up. He manages to run to his car, and my dad is still chasing the man to his car. Like, he hops in, he drives off, and of course, one of my nosy-ass neighbors called the police. Bro, tell me why the police pulls up, and my dad memorized my friend's license plate and gave it to them. Like, what? Police officer comes up to me, explaining the entire situation, and he just basically tells me my friend's gonna get in trouble for driving without a full license. They leave, and now it's just me and my dad, and that man actually definitely disrespected the fuck out of me, and he just ignored me for 6 months. And in my house, if my dad's ignoring you, you're actually cut the hell off.
Okay, so this next story time is by far the most traumatic and life-changing thing I've ever been through, and I'm gonna try to make it through this whole thing without crying, but I'm already shaking. So a few years ago, my boyfriend at the time and I sold a lot of stuff online, like shoes, clothes, games, phones, anything and everything. And so it wasn't out of the ordinary for us to like meet someone random, you know, go meet up with them, sell it, go about our business. And so this guy contacted me and it was like, I want such and such. Is it still available? And I'm like, yeah, it's good. Like, no problem, blah, 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 blah. And so he's wanting to meet that night, but it's pretty late. It's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And so I'm like, no, like we can meet tomorrow, whatever. And so the next day, me and my boyfriend wake up. The guy still wants it. We're like, yeah, no problem. And we're getting ready to go over and meet him. And within the next 30 minutes, my boyfriend would be dead in front of my face. Okay, so it's the next day and we're getting ready to go meet this guy. And like, it's just a regular ass day. It's a nice sunny day. It's like 3 p.m. And we don't think anything crazy is about to happen or whatever. So we're just caring about our business. And I didn't recognize it at the time, but there were so many signs around us pointing us to not go over there. But we just didn't see it because we didn't think nothing was about to happen. So we're driving over there. And like when we get there and I call the dude or whatever, he's kind of being sketch or whatever. And so me and my boyfriend are like, well, fuck this. If he's playing, like we can just go. Like, let's just go work out or whatever we were about to go do. And so we leave from where we were at. And there was an exchange where he was like, basically like, I really want it. Like, can't you just come meet me back here or whatever? And so we turn around and we go meet him. And when we pull up, he walks up to the car. And okay, so when we pull up in the middle of the street because we figure it's just going to be a really quick transaction. And my boyfriend's in the driver's side and I'm in the passenger seat. And the guy who wants the item approaches the driver's side window and he's like, oh, can I see it? I just want to make sure everything's there, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And my boyfriend was like, yeah, it's good or whatever. So he pulls off to like the side of the road because it's broad daylight. There's still traffic. And, you know, he's showing the guy the item or whatever. And the next thing we know is he reaches in his pants like he's about to pull out some money. And instead he pulls out a gun And he puts it in the window, and my boyfriend pushes it away and is like, bro, you can just like take it. And the next thing I know is I just hear hella gunshots in the car, and I'm like checking my body, like what's going on, and the car takes off. So I'm like, oh fuck, like are we good or whatever? And I look over at my boyfriend, and he's spitting up blood, and his eyes are white, and he's hella scared. And okay, so once I realized that my boyfriend got shot, I was trying to figure out what the fuck just happened, what's going on. I don't hear anything. My ears are just ringing, like it's just the loudest ringing sound ever. And all I know is that we take off and we turn the first corner that we see, and he can't drive no more. He's getting weak. So he pulls the car over and he moves from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. Like he walks around the car, and I move from the passenger seat to the driver's seat, and I just feel hella warmth on my leg. And I look down and my leg is just covered in blood. And I'm on the phone with 911 screaming, like, what do I do? What do I do? He's trying to point me to the hospital, but he starts having a seizure. And so I pull over, and the next thing I know, the police come, ambulance, fire trucks, everyone comes. They get him out of the car. They cut his clothes off the body. You know, they're checking me to see if I'm hurt at all. And I talked to investigators later that day, and basically like 5 to 8 hours later, they told me he was dead and he didn't wake up when he got to the hospital.